Welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Sayfie alongside Anthony Broome. Chris Ballas not able to make it today. Anthony, we got a lot to cover. We'll talk Michigan basketball and the roster, the transfer portal. We will get into Michigan football, spring ball, some stock risers, maybe anyone that we think their stock is not rising as well. The opposite of that, if they're not tanking, but somebody who maybe isn't living up to expectations. We will talk about the House settlement, how it affects Michigan's roster situation. And I have a question for you, actually a couple questions on Bryce Underwood that we'll get to later on in the show. If you are happy with the way Dusty May and his staff are attacking the transfer portal, hit that like button right now on your screen, the thumbs up. We got to get to 300 likes on this video. Leave us a comment as well. Who do you want to see next out of the transfer portal? What do you think of the roster? What do they need from further additions to the roster? Leave us a comment there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel here. And as always, head to the Wolverine.com. The promo code here, UM1, gets you 2 months of premium access for just $1. Get on the message board. Get behind the paywall on all of our articles for 2 months. Just $1. Promo code UM and the numeral 1. Anthony, it is Masters Week. I was thinking about this earlier. My dream, well, first of all, productivity is dropping across the country, I would imagine, in the workforce these days. And I was thinking about when this happens, it all has to do with sports. So sports fans are the culprits of this. It's feast week, heading into Thanksgiving with all the college basketball. Bowl games, kind of the in-between Christmas and New Year's. You have a championship week in college basketball, conference tournaments. You get all week. First 2 days of March Madness, and then Masters Week. And my dream would be to have a Michigan golfer make it as an amateur so we can go down and cover that thing. Probably have to pay for it myself. I don't know if the company would allow it, but it would pay for itself because you get in free. I don't know that they'd accept one of us without a Michigan golfer in the field, but that would be my dream. So the Michigan golf team, get on that. Somebody qualify.
Yeah, big weekend for guys that like to wear salmon-colored polo shirts, I guess. I'm kidding. I love the Masters too. I'm not a huge golf guy, but I do like watching the Masters. I had a Masters pool draft last night with some family friends, so gives me a little extra juice heading into the weekend. Shout out Ludwig Aberg, who is the guy I'll be rooting for this weekend. But yeah, kind of an interesting spot in the calendar where college basketball season's over. Portal is still open for another 12 days. Football portal going to be opening up again in 6 days. Spring ball kind of in the home stretch now. They'll play the spring game a week from Saturday. It's kind of crazy how much it's flown by, given that, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit, not really an abundance of storylines this go round. There was so much new going into last year, and obviously there was the bolt of lightning that hit the program in November with Bryce Underwood and all the momentum that came after that. But yeah, kind of a low-key spring ball to this point, but a lot to get to, a lot to talk about.
A couple things. One, I'm glad I didn't wear my salmon polo today. And two, I'm going to be the most annoying guy ever. It's Ludwig Oberg.
Oberg? Well,
yeah.
It's spelled Aberg. So.
Well, he's got like the dots over the A, right, or whatever it is.
I don't know, man.
Or whatever the carrot.
I'm trying to get myself up for this.
I know. I said I was going to be the most annoying guy ever, but no, it's a fun week. It's exciting. It kind of is one of those weeks. I love March Madness. I'd say that's probably my favorite sports day of the year is the Thursday of March Madness because it's all day. It's not just one event. Like I prefer that to the Final Four. You get two games with potentially, four of the best teams in the country. But the first day, there's just usually chaos. It wasn't as chaotic this season, but this is one of those weeks that a lot of people look forward to. So yeah, good luck to you in your Masters pool. Good luck to me in my Masters pool. Hopefully you can pull off a win, and everybody else out there who's got anything on the line this week.
Let me just, I'm going to say something that the golf people will be like, no duh. But last summer when the Rocket Mortgage came through, my now father-in-law and I were one of the, I think they're called like honorary observers, where you follow a pairing pretty much inside the ropes throughout an entire round. And it was Sunday, and We were early, so we were with guys that weren't really in contention. But you kind of like the fundamentals. They do the same thing every single swing to a T, which is something I will never be able to accomplish. And you kind of get a sense of, the endurance it takes to golf. What math is hard, 72 holes in 4 days to win a championship or even make the cut in these tournaments. So a little bit of perspective for me, getting to see that live. That was pretty awesome. And hey, there's no bigger tournament in the sport than what is going on this weekend. So hopefully everyone gets what they want out of it.
I remember you sending some photos from that. You were what they call inside the ropes, which is awesome.
I was.
Very cool. Let's move into the Michigan and the transfer portal. Remember, today's show is brought to you by the official game ball of Michigan football, BigGameUSA.com/Wolverines. We'll talk about them in just a little bit. But let's start with the transfer portal updates. Today, we get official word that Elliot Cadeau, North Carolina point guard transfer, and Merez Johnson Jr., Illinois forward transfer, have officially signed with Michigan. I know there was some chatter in our live chat on Monday night's show about, oh my gosh, Merez Johnson Jr. took down the M emoji from his Instagram bio, and Yaxel Lendeborg, took off the @UMichBball from his Instagram bio. Nothing happened. There was no change to their commitments. Lendeborg is going to go through the draft, but Merez Johnson has signed today. So I figure it's just with the craziness of things that happen, in today's college athletics in this landscape, no one feels like 100% certain about anything until a guy's signed. So figured it was worth mentioning there. And then Michigan got a prediction as well the other day that they will land Adai Mara from UCLA, as we talked about on Monday. They were looking good there. Joe Tipton put in a pick for Michigan to land him, the 7'3" big man from UCLA who averaged 6'4", 1.6 blocks, and 1 assist in 13 minutes per game last season. So that is definitely one to watch. It has slowed down on the Michigan basketball transfer portal front because they do have 3 guys in the fold. I guess maybe 2.5 with your counting Lendeborg is kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And then Adai Mara being the next on the board. And then beyond that, Fat Brooks transfers out. Disappointing to see that, but somewhat understandable, I guess, and nothing really surprises you. I will say maybe I'll stop doing it, but I also enjoy doing it during the year when you watch a freshman or you see flashes here or there. It's garbage time, and you try to envision this guy could be good, when he's an upperclassman or this or that. Just imagine what it'll be as a senior. I'm still going to do it because it's more fun, and I don't want to be so cynical, but a lot of these guys won't end up, being a senior at the school you're watching them at.
It's disappointing because I think to be a team that does not only make a Final Four, win national championships, but kind of get several bites at the apple, I think that you have to have a nucleus of your own guys who have been there and have been through it. I think every great team has that. And my question it's nothing against the guys themselves. It's maybe more with maybe the guidance they're getting is, where are you going to go where you're going to have a better opportunity to, I get that guys want to play, but you're at a program, it's a high major program in, we'll call the SEC the best conference in the sport right now. Big Ten is in the top 3, and it's not 3 in my opinion, with the quality of teams that we have every year. Where is it just playing time? Is it just a playing time consideration? I don't know. I know that there's market values now, and it's just you pour an entire year of development. And I'll say this isn't directly at Justin Pippen or Fat Brooks or whomever, but in Fat's case, he did not, when he joined the program, his entire recruiting process was with another coaching staff. And he decided to stay on and got some run at times this year, but it's pretty clear that as you continue to recruit in the portal, like that upward trajectory is not, and it's not necessarily maybe playing time. Maybe it's the upward trajectory thing. Like, will my role increase next year? What's my path to more playing time next year? or years past, or years forward, I should say. So from that perspective, I get it. But yeah, you think of the guys that, think of a Karis LeVert who didn't do anything his freshman year at Michigan, was a late ad in that process. Karis LeVert wouldn't be at Michigan as a sophomore or a junior in the here and now.
He did a little bit. He did more than Fat, but
yeah, I get that. But I'm saying
shots in the Final Four and whatnot. But
I'm saying in general, like that guy's leaving for a bag and playing time elsewhere now. Like that's not.
Yeah,
you don't get to enjoy the fruits of that development. It's disappointing. True. It's across the board. I mean, I'm scrolling through Twitter right now. Tennessee's starting quarterback is like in contract negotiations to potentially not spring portal now, which is crazy. You were the starting quarterback on a team that made the college football playoff last year. It's just kind of insanity across the board right now. I just wish that, I'm all for players and having the opportunity to better yourself and find a situation that's better for you. But I just don't think we're rewarding, pushing through, adversity or carving out a path. I think we're just playing musical chairs until we find what works for us.
I agree. I don't know exactly why Fat Brooks left. I do think that they're, a lot of times just generally when guys are leaving now, it's, they do have an offer from somebody else or, they realize that, okay, if I do wait my turn, then I'm not able to make as much NIL. And, to a certain extent, you don't blame a lot of these kids for trying to max out, especially kids that might not be the NBA, max out what they can make during college. And if you are a little bit more of a prominent piece on a worse team or a team at a little bit of a lower level, whether that's different conference or whatever, then you might be able to make more. That's probably a factor for some of these guys. So there's a lot that goes into it. But like you said, he stuck it through. He met with Dusty just after Dusty's introductory press conference last year, reaffirmed his commitment, decided to come, by all accounts, had a really good attitude. And he's a great kid from a great support system, family. He's extremely community oriented. I'm wishing him the best. But as far as Michigan's, pursuits right now, you're kind of just waiting on a Daimara, and you are, it feels like that's just the next domino, and then you move on to whatever's next. Now, there are rumors that we haven't confirmed them 100%, but from our message board, and credit the message board over at the Wolverine.com. Use that promo code UM1 for 2 months of premium access for just $1. If you want to, there it is on the screen. If you want to get insight like this, but one of our members, our subscribers over there, was at a Rotary Club meeting in Ann Arbor yesterday that Dusty May was supposed to speak at. Now, Mike Boynton Jr. spoke in his stead because Dusty apparently hopped on a plane to go recruit a couple kids in Germany. And then we had a subscriber who was on his flight to Germany yesterday. So I love it. Like, just the message board community is just undefeated. But you're, so
I've got to give credit.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, that's how, at least me, like that's how Adai Mara was on my radar, because there were guys saying, hey, Dusty and Morez Johnson now follow him on Instagram. And you're like, oh, well, that's something to keep an eye on.
Hashtag the follow. That's been going around. I mean, I kind of want to ask Dusty about that. We're supposed to get him in the next couple of weeks for a press conference. Like, do coaches realize that people are looking into stuff this closely? But and they probably do. But it's a great way to connect through social media for them. So they're going to keep doing it. And this staff doesn't seem like they care too much about, like, not leaving any sort of scent. Now, it seems like they are kind of quiet about who they might be recruiting in Germany, if that is in fact true. But Malik Cordell being one of them, 7-foot big man that visited back in late February, and Michigan, reportedly leads for, at least that's been kind of the word on the street. So don't know who else. But last time, different coaches go over. John Beilein did for Mo Wagner. Juwan Howard made that trip over to Germany to see Franz Wagner. He might have been playing somewhere else at the time. Maybe it wasn't Germany, but I think it was. But he might have been in like a tournament somewhere else. But he goes over to Europe, gets Franz. Of course, Michigan was leading for Franz anyway before John Beilein left for the Cavs. But if you go over and get another guy, I would have confidence that some of these Germans will work out for Michigan, and also just international big man in general. That we're on the that's starting to become a thing. And Dusty's always been keen on those guys, but with Vlad Golden as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's always is there a Wagner factory over there that you can just kind of go pull the lever and power it back on? Like,
I've looked into it. There is not, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's you gotta
kids one day though.
Yeah, you gotta find players everywhere now, and I hate to put it this way, but international players are cheaper. And maybe comparable talents to guys that might be asking for $1 million in the portal and things like that. And that's not to say they won't get rewarded at some point, but
are they more likely to stay where they start?
I mean, it's a life-changing decision to move overseas. So, a guy like you're just gonna make that investment, I think, unless you're following the coach that recruited you. I think you're gonna kind of stick it out where you're at. So that's, I think that's kind of the reality of where we're at right now. And there could be, I mean, there might still be some guys stateside in terms of high school recruits that they're in on, but Dusty is going to be thorough. He's going to find pieces wherever. He's going to find, I mean, there, like you said, I mean, this dead period is up Thursday. We might see them start getting guys on campus that, until we heard they were going to be on campus, weren't on the radar at all. And that was kind of the MO of how this went last year. So confident that when the dust, everyone's, they still need another big man. Oh, they still need more shooting. They still need this. They still need that. This roster is going to be in flux probably at least for the next few weeks, if not longer, especially while you wait on Lindenberg's decision. So take a deep breath. I know that a lot of what we do when we hop on here, we're speaking about the state of things and the state of what we know in the here and now. But I think they're off to a really strong start in the portal. Mara would be, I think, a great fourth piece, and where it goes from there, we'll see. But right now, it's tough to say that you like the pieces better than last year because there's so many unknowns. But I think you walk out of this offseason, regardless of how it goes, even if Lindenberg does stay in the NBA draft, that they're going to have a pretty competitive roster. And will it be a roster that gets back to the Sweet 16, pushes past the Sweet 16? I don't know. That's damn hard to do, which is what made what they did this year extremely impressive. But, they're on the up and up, and I'm pretty confident that fans will be happy with what they put together.
The last two things on the portal are a couple of interesting ones. Other guys that could be in the draft, and they're not going to shy away from that either. They understand that if you're going to raise your ceiling with a total game changer, it's going to be with somebody like Yaxel Lendeborg or Danny Wolf. If, let's say, his stock was a little bit lower and it was more of a decision for him, then I think that you're willing to wait that thing out as long as you need to. Brooks Barnhizer has entered the NBA draft. There are rumors, and not just rumors. Jonathan Givney from ESPN tweeted yesterday he was also entering the transfer portal. Then he deleted that tweet right after, said he's just going in the draft. But I think a lot of people expect maybe him to make his own announcement on the portal. Now there are rumors today. A lot of it is just chatter, and some of it's from random fan accounts, but that his waiver is going to be granted for another year. Brooks Barnhizer is the son of Mark Barnhizer, who was Dusty's high school coach in both basketball and cross country at Eastern Green High School in Bloomfield, Indiana. And Dusty has said on the BTN Journey episode from earlier this season that Brooks has a job in his program whenever he is ready for it, and he'll be playing basketball for a while. But hell of a player who got hurt this past season, played a few games with a broken foot. He's an absolute warrior and has been a star in the Big Ten the last few years. And then the other guy who is entering the draft and seems fully, has full intentions to go through with the draft process this time is Jameer Watkins from Florida State, second-team All-ACC performer this past year. Michigan recruited him last year when he was in the portal and going through the process, the draft process, ends up coming back to Florida State. certainly used the leverage of also being in the portal, I think, probably to cash in a little bit. But he's another guy. I mean, averaged 18 last year, 18 points per game, shoots it well, 6'7" guard wing type, kind of the guy that maybe they're missing at this point. But your thoughts on either of those? I know the Barnhizer one I almost didn't want to bring up because it's not necessarily solid information right now, but I mean, there's a lot of smoke that he is trying to get this waiver and that he may enter the portal.
If he gets a waiver and if he enters the portal, obviously two ifs right now. I mean, it's a fit for all the reasons you just laid out. I mean, yeah, he might have a job with Dusty May whenever the time comes. The job might be, hey, we need you to plug a role on Michigan basketball's roster next season.
Hey, we'll pay you $1 million to play.
Yeah, it's not hard to envision that. There's not a whole lot of oxygen to give to it at the moment, other than, I think you laid it out perfectly. There's not much more to go on than that. I would just say simply yes. I'd be in for it. Watkins probably the same deal, but again, I would be weary about. And again, I mean, if you're in on these guys that are going in the draft or might be in the portal or have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, there's two sides to it, right? Like you could build a roster with two of those guys committed, and then they decide to stay in the draft, and you're like, well, I mean, back to the drawing board, I guess. Or they wind up coming, and you have two pro basketball players on your roster, essentially. So, yeah, I mean, I think at this point, you just keep working it. I don't know, we know that if Lendeborg comes, that's going to be a hefty NIL promise. I don't know how much more that allows for. And that's not to say there's a number or a cap they have, but I just wonder how the math would work. Cause you start talking yourself into maybe there not being as many roles up for grabs on this team, especially if a guy like Namari Burnett comes back. Now you said this on the board. I think you just take good basketball players and figure it out. And I totally agree with that. But, I do wonder how much work left there is to do, at least in terms of, hey, we need a high impact guy from the portal tomorrow to feel good about this thing.
I agree. And I say that it has to be a certain level of player. And I think Brooks Barnhizer qualifies. Watkins is more of a fit and a high level player that you would figure it out with. But, that's more of a positional need. Barnhizer and Lendeborg maybe play a similar position, maybe not. Kind of 3-4, not a great shooter, but just does so many things well on the basketball court. I wouldn't build it like Juwan Howard did, where you just take pretty good players and try to figure it out, and half of them are power forwards. But I do think that Dusty and this staff can kind of figure out how to make something like that work. And these are the level of players that you would be willing to do that with. And even be a fallback option if the draft doesn't work out for some of these guys. I think Barnhizer has much lower stock than some of these other guys, and would be more likely to come back to school. But we'll talk about that more if it gets to that situation. We'll keep an eye on it. Purdue fans seem confident that they're landing him. I think he's from Lafayette, Indiana. So we shall see. But, man, everyone's in the portal now, it seems like. So we'll keep.
Yeah, it feels like right now we're gearing up for a second wind, a last push before the portal does close. Because, like I said, I think today is the dead period. The dead period's up today.
Yes, the 10th, and so there'll be visits this weekend, I would imagine, and we'll see if Dusty's back from Germany if he actually went. But
yeah, I mean, who knows who's in charge right now? I mean, you go park in this spot there, you might be in charge. So.
I wonder if my key card would work. My key card that doesn't exist, but some card, just scan it.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. It'd be great to talk about another edition or two come Monday.
Absolutely. We'll keep an eye on it over at thewolverine.com. We will also, in our free time, be tossing around our official Michigan Jordan Fly Elite football, which dropped recently. Anthony, you got yours? Yep, we both do. Right there. You got the Jordan logo on there. You got the Michigan logo on there. For the first time ever, Jordan Brand's signature innovation, performance, and swagger are hitting the turf in the Big House. This is the official game ball of the Wolverines, and you will see it in action all season long. As Michigan builds on its championship legacy, the football is designed for precision, control, and game-changing performance. Here's what makes it special. Signature Maze, Jumpman, and Block M logos, iconic symbols of innovation and performance, engineered to Michigan's quarterback specs, designed with input and guidance from Wolverines coaches and players. Pebbled lace, a visible, colorized maze lace reinforcement flap and overlay stripe technology for better optimal off-lace control. It's handcrafted in the USA by Big Game Football Factory. Every ball comes with a certificate of authenticity. It's not just a football, it's a piece of Michigan history, perfect for true Michigan fans to display it or give it as a gift. Be among the first to own it. Snap yours today at biggameusa.com/Wolverines. That is biggameusa.com/Wolverines. Love this football. I am very excited for better weather to get outside and throw it around a little bit, but can't wait to see it in action this fall with the Wolverines. Let's talk football, not just the official football, but Michigan football. Spring ball stock risers, Anthony. Let's talk about some guys who maybe have stood out as we're kind of hearing from coaches and players throughout the spring as we head into the spring game, which will take place next Saturday, April 19th at noon. It'll be on tape delay 8 days later after the portal closes. I imagine it'll be highly attended. And I imagine people will read and watch and listen to our stuff because a lot of people from out of town won't be able to make it. So I guess it benefits us in that sense. But as we head in here, your thoughts on, I guess, start off with a guy or a group that you feel like is raising their stock this spring.
I feel like just in terms of opportunity, I like what we've heard from the wide receivers about what the offense under Chip Lindsey can be. Now, again, I think it's a room that has a lot of complementary pieces right now. I don't know if it has an alpha or if it has even two number twos in it. You know, I think a lot of people took for granted what they had when they had Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson. I mean, those are two pros. I don't think they have two pros in the room right now. But when you're comfortable about is the fact that assuming the quarterback's upright, which is a completely different conversation right now, they're going to have opportunities to make plays. They're going to take shots down the field. You know, a guy like Donovan McCulley was brought in to be kind of that jump ball rebound type of guy, and had good production, 2 years ago. And was it this week or last week we talked to him, and he said, because remember he had entered the portal before last offseason too, and basically said he had to graduate in order to come to Michigan. So a lot of people have asked like what happened with him at Indiana. Kind of seems like, at least my read on it, based on the situation and what he said publicly, probably already kind of had one foot out the door and had a new coaching staff that, preferred a different type of wide receiver. So I'm hopeful for him. I actually think he's going to be pretty good. I think you'll probably get 40 catches out of him. I know that's not mind-blowing stuff, but they didn't have guys capable of going up and grabbing jump balls last year. Defensively,
well,
I'm a little more optimistic.
Let's stick with that because he was on my list too. I think.
Sure. Sorry.
I think McCulley, and maybe it was just me not being as much of a believer in him, and now I'm a little bit more so. So I'm saying his stock is rising. Maybe the coaching staff saw it that way all along. I guess we are just talking from our own standpoint. So he's on my list, and Ron Bellamy said it on Monday that, they are teaching these guys, him and Soup Campbell are, they're playing old highlight films and reels of legendary Michigan wide receivers, and they got the collage on the wall. And Ron's talked about this in the past as well, great Michigan receivers, and he's been challenging them who's going to be next. And somebody asked him, who do you think will be next? And he said, well, I got to go with the oldest guy, Donovan McCulley. But, he didn't have to say anybody with that. And, a lot of people have been mentioning him with the wide receivers. I think he's going to be their unquestioned number one wide receiver who's on the field, pretty much the entire game. Kind of like in the Cornelius Johnson role positionally, and the fact that it seemed like no matter what Cornelius Johnson did for 3 years, he was out there lining up. But I think McCulley could be more dynamic than that with his athleticism. We'll see if he puts it together consistency-wise. But I feel like I feel a lot better about him. And then go with where you're going with it on defense.
Defensively, I was going to say I feel a lot better about the depth and the versatility they have on the back end. That's a group where I know there's not. Jair Hill obviously had some issues towards the end of last season. A guy you hear about a lot, potentially having a role as a freshman in Shamari Earls. So when we're talking about this youth and maybe, I'll say lack of maturity at the position, on the surface, that makes you a little bit nervous. But then Zeke Berry flexed out to corner last year, and that was the best he played all season. And they're cross training all of these guys. They have guys that are playing. They're playing the boundary. They're playing, the nickel in the slot. They're playing deep safety. I think that's going to allow them to not only get the best, combination on the field more often than not, but I think it's going to allow them to rotate a lot too when you have these guys that are positionally flexible and what they can do. So when you have a secondary that can mix and match, and when you watch NFL football right now, kind of the new wave, and maybe it's even sort of the Baltimore Ravens wave of defense, is you got to have interchangeable parts on the back end. Obviously, you need to hold up front. Still, as always, as Don Brown used to say, the tip of the spear, so to speak, your defensive line. But I really like the athleticism and the versatility of what they have in the secondary.
The tip of the spear, and then he'd recruit 290-pound nose.
Yeah, then Ben Mason was playing defensive tackle, so.
Right. No, I think you're right there. And I'm always hesitant when we hear about, we're moving guys around to different spots and, they're going to play all over. And even Lamar Morgan said the other day, like, Mason Curtis, he's going to play safety. He's going to play nickel in game one. And then when he was talking about Brandon Hillman, he's like, he'll play high safety and he'll mix in at a little nickel. Like, we'll see on all that. But with Wink, I tend to believe it a little bit more, like to your point, that it feels like that's something he desires a little bit more. And Lamar Morgan said it the other day that could be game to game. One guy's going to take the most snaps at nickel one game, and then another guy will do it the next game, or maybe it'll be situationally within a game, matchup wise, where it is a safety playing nickel, or more of a corner by trade playing nickel, and maybe gone are the days, at least for now at Michigan, where it's just one guy. But we'll see, right? I mean, they tinkered last year, and then injury comes. I mean, DBs get hurt a decent amount, so you need a lot of them, and I think they brought in quite a few, especially kind of those safety types. So that helps. And then, speaking of 290-pound defensive tackles, Michigan doesn't have many of those anymore. They have guys, 320. I know Etta came in as an edge. Now he's 320. Said he wants to play at 310 this fall, but he feels good at 320 right now. And then, like, stock up for that group, I think, just depth-wise as well. Like, they don't have Mason Graham or Kenneth Grant, but they do have Rayshon Benny, who, could have been starting the last couple of years if he was at a different team. And then just think of this. Like, you have these massive guys who are old, who are going to be plugging in the middle of the defense there. Trey Williams, 6-year senior. Damon Payne, 5th-year senior. Rayshon Benny, 5th-year senior. Ika Wuna, 5th-year senior. And then you have maybe some of those more emerging talents coming up who are also now upperclassmen, Trey Pierce and Eno Etta. That might be your 6 on the interior that you can roll through in waves. So, again, maybe it was just me not believing it until now, but I'm feeling better about just how they're going to piece that together. If you get these big guys that are older than the offensive linemen they're going up against, and they're fresh because they have depth, you're not going to be Mason and KG, but it might be still a very, very formidable group.
I've said this before, but defensive tackle reminds me a lot of the questions that we had after Hutchinson and Ojabo left after the 2021 season. It's like, how can you possibly replicate what those guys did? How can you possibly make up for all this production?
We needed something to talk about all summer. Come on.
That's true. Hey, and we're good at that too. But it's the answer is in waves, in the aggregate, in shots on goal, so to speak, or body shots with guys that come in and rotate and they're fresh. And that is the way for them this year. There are guys in the group like a Rayshon Benny, who I think has a chance to take a leap and be the star of that group. I actually think a guy like Etta has a chance to take a leap and be a bit of a star in that group as a guy that can obviously play the middle and then maybe flex out to the edge in certain situations, though it's a little tougher to do that at 320
He looks
that's
so
great.
much bigger than he did a couple years ago.
Listen, there was a guy, and I don't know if I apologize if he's a listener or subscriber. He may just have been a guy I met on the street. I was doing our post-game show at Regents Field this fall, and I talked to a guy for about a half hour. He was in an Eno Etta jersey, and I'm like, "Are you a family? Are you a friend?" He's like, "No, he came in to, I think he said he came into the store I work one day or something, and was just a super nice guy, and I vowed that I'd be a fan of his forever." So I think anytime his name comes up, I think of that guy. So shout out to that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be in the aggregate. It's going to be with depth. And the flip side of that is that they might be a little less deep at edge this year, but not, I don't think there's a ginormous drop off from, obviously Derek Moore. He's a pro. Thank God he's back. TJ Guy, very good player. But I think you've got guys waiting in the wings, namely a Cam Brandt, Dom Nichols, someone else we've talked to, maybe the most booming voice of any player I've ever heard in that building.
He's loud.
They're going to be okay there. I'm pretty confident that, what they lack in day one, maybe day two NFL draft picks, they make up in with having I think there's a lot of, at the very least, day three picks on that defense this year. So when you have a lot of those guys, that's a lot. That's good depth. That's good rotation. And I think that's going to be an asset for them because in a different way than the defense needing to carry the team last year, I do think that this defense will have to kind of shoulder the load of this year's football team.
The comp to the 2022 Edge group, I think, is a great one. And I think it would bode really well if they turn out to be that. And then with kind of more, just a high level of talent around them. Because like we said, it's not replacing Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo. It's, having guys step up, and then, okay, your strength now is your middle linebackers. And then you kind of, build around that. So, but
the flip side too is that, if you want to play devil's advocate, Damon Payne and Trey Williams left a lot on the table coming from Clemson and Alabama. And, you see those guys and the names of the schools that they came from, and you're like, oh, wow, that's a contributor. Those guys have a lot to show and a lot to prove too.
They were kind of like bennies of each of their schools. And Trey Williams couldn't stay healthy. So if he can stay healthy and he's that much older, again, there's just something to that. Like when you're just that much older and you're more physically mature, go look at the photos that Trey Williams posted on Instagram the other day. I mean, he's built like an absolute house. He's like a mix of Jordan Whitley and Cam Good. And I'm just talking look, not the player. He's better than those guys.
Well, I remember 2 years ago when Michigan won the national title, then last year Ohio State goes on to win it. A lot of the talk, oh, well, what do you expect? They have all these super seniors on the roster. And it's like, yeah, that's a big part of it now. So
yes,
there's nothing wrong with having experience. And as Jim Harbaugh likes to say, that extra year of man growth.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. Let's rapid fire a couple more. I did have Dom Nichols on my list. I had Nate Afobe and Jake Guarnera on my list. Nate Afobe because he's looks like a projected starter at right guard, and then Jake Guarnera not because he's going to be an All-American this year, but he's kind of emerged from that group of offensive linemen that are taking that leap. And you noticed it last year, right? He was making some travel rosters, and that spoke volumes about what they thought about him, how he was performing in practice. So he's in the 2 deep at center and guard. So I would throw him in there. And then Bryce Underwood. Mikey Keene's hurt. Bryce Underwood's definitely a stock riser this fall. He might be the most
forget Bryce Underwood. Jaden Davis. I mean, he's an injury away from being the guy right now.
Sure. Or maybe he goes and wins that damn thing. Who knows? Wins that sucker. That job.
I don't want to. I know we talk about how us in media create narratives all off season. Bryce Underwood's going to start the opener. Like, spoiler alert. I just think it's obvious. It's clear as day.
Let's talk about Bryce then and move into our next segment, because I have a question for you that I didn't ask you before the show. You have no prep here because I kind of wanted to spring it on you a little bit. So here we go. Producer Megan, could we bring up the graphic on this? The top 10 quarterbacks in college football coming up this season from Andy Staples, who ranks them 1 to 10. We'll run them down. 1 is DJ Lagway from Florida. 2 is Lenora Sellers from South Carolina. 3 is Cade Klubnik from Clemson. 4, Arch Manning from Texas. 5, Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. 6, John Mateer from Oklahoma, who Michigan will see in week 2, transferred from Washington State. 7 is Drew Aller of Penn State. 8 is Sam Levitt from Arizona State. 9, Darian Mensah of Duke, also transferred in there. And then Carson Beck, another transfer from Georgia to Miami. Those are the top 10. My first question to you, Anthony, is will Bryce Underwood be in this group by the end of the season, given that we do think he's going to start right away?
Top 10 quarterbacks in college football.
And there are 133 teams, I believe. And probably some of them will play multiple. So
I'll say this.
150 that'll start.
There's a couple guys on this list I'd like him better than. Top 10 in college football. I'm going to say no, but I think he has a chance to be in that top 15, top 20. I just feel like I don't know that the infrastructure around him is where it needs to be. Now, then again, you could make the same argument for Lagway last year as a true freshman. And he's at the top of the list. Could he be at the top of that list in 2026? Wouldn't surprise me at all.
That was my next question. That was my question is he going to be in this? So I agree with you that he's not going to be top 10. There are just too many ups and downs that you see with a freshman quarterback. Now, DJ Lagway, so a lot of people like to make these lists. I credit Andy, and I know Ari Wasserman did one as well.
I like Andy putting the Florida guy up top, by the way.
True. And so did Ari, by the way, who's not a Florida guy. That he had him number 1 as well. But Andy, of course, national champion with the Gators. And so a lot of people make these lists before the season, and then, we kind of forget about them. They don't make another list. So I hope they do. But I did find one from Bleacher Report after the regular season last year. Lagway only started 6 games. He's nowhere near. I don't even think he's in the top 50 here. Okay. Makes complete sense. Now, Underwood's probably going to start the entire season if he stays healthy, as you talked about, or at least start the year as a starter. I don't know that he'd give that job away if he gets that opportunity. So he has more upside here than maybe a Lagway as a freshman. But last season, looking at Bleacher Report's list of the top quarterbacks, no freshman was really anywhere near here. You did have Lenora Sellers, who came out and had an awesome season at South Carolina, who was a redshirt freshman, ended up number 14 on their list. Quinn Ewers was 16. Like there are some good quarterbacks in college football that might not be top 10, that are more veteran, that'll be productive, that'll be on winning teams, that will be in there. So I don't think Bryce will be, but I think he's got a hell of a shot to be in that Lagway or Lenora Sellers spot heading into year 2. I know for Sellers, it's year 3 coming up, but he redshirted as a freshman. And Lagway obviously kind of broke out there and really helped probably save Billy Napier's job.
Yeah, I think the other thing to look at with these lists is not this is the top 10 guys in college football. It's would I prefer any of these guys? How many of these guys would I prefer starting over Bryce Underwood? And on that, the list that's on the screen right now, there's probably 7 of those guys, but I think I'd prefer Bryce to Drew Aller. I prefer Bryce to Carson Beck, who just did not look like himself at the end of the year and then was injured. And Darian Mensah, he's a guy that before all this Bryce stuff was going down, you start to, I had a list of maybe 20 guys. I was like, all right, if they enter the portal, this might be someone to do like a profile on. And he's extremely raw, but I don't know if, I'm not there with him yet either. But most of those guys, Lagway, Norris, Lenora Sellers, Klubnik, Manning, Nussmeier, Mateer, Sam Levitt, I think is very underrated. I think those guys are, fan.
Yeah,
those guys are pretty good. So yeah, it's a good place to be in when you've got this blue chip player, but you've got a lot of work to do with him still. And the nice thing is that, when you have a Bryce and you have a Chip Lindsey coming in, and really they could say what they want about, oh, well, we're still going to be a smash mouth team. They're building this system from the ground up, basically around Bryce to hopefully attract future Bryces as well. And that's not to say that they're all of a sudden, an air raid team or anything like that, but this is very much like a foundational season. It's like a rookie quarterback in the NFL. There are going to be Michigan is probably going to lose a game or two this year because it just doesn't get the quarterback play or the offensive play it needs to win a game. But we'll see what that means moving forward. I think you got to take, it's going to be interesting to see how he responds to taking his lumps, because this is a guy in Underwood who, by all accounts, very humble guy, hard worker, has won at every level. I guess the only level that he's played at this point is high school, but is a winner, has won multiple years.
He's probably got some Pop Warner titles.
Yeah, I mean, this is the guy that in 7th grade you started hearing people in the area talk about. So the pedigree's there. How do you respond when something doesn't go well, doesn't go your way? Because I think everyone has that moment at some point. That's going to be what kind of forges him into what he will ultimately be at Michigan.
100%. I think that's kind of the biggest key probably for the development at this point in someone's career for any quarterback that's coming into college, whether that's their junior year when they, get their first start, or if they start right away. So yes, my first question was probably a dumb one. Will he be top 10? I mean, I think it's possible.
No, I don't. The thing is, I don't think it's dumb, because he's the number 1 overall recruit in the country. And what a lot of people think is the most college ready passer to come out since a Trevor Lawrence. So I don't think it's dumb to say that at all. Like, if he's very good, this is a playoff team, and with a chance to make some noise given the defense that they have. But, you think back to, Dylan Raiola, 5-star last year, takes his lumps a bit. I know Dante Moore was at Oregon last year, but his freshman year, he starts at UCLA, and that was a bit of a circus. So
Arch waited for 2 years.
Arch did wait for 2 years,
but he looked impressive last year at times.
It takes time. There are so many people that, all right, last year was the rough patch year. That was the year they got out of their system, and now it's back to Michigan and getting back to the playoff. And I'm not there with them yet. I think that they might be. I think their window, if we want to talk about getting back into national title conversation, because that's the conversations we should be having with a school like Michigan, it's probably 26, 27 for me.
And going back to that list real quick, he's going to do some things this year better than a lot of the guys on the list. It's just more probably the consistency, the ups and downs, like you said, kind of learning how to respond to adversity. Something happens or whatever, you got to fight through and win a shootout one game.
When you're building too, and you have this equity of 2 years ago, you were a program that won a national title, and that there's all this positive momentum. There's fun to be found in the journey. Not so much, obviously you want to win as many games as you can, but I think it's going to be incredibly fun to watch this guy grow and get better too.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. I mean, you look back after you win the title, and it's all hindsight because now what it all led to. But man, some of the you wouldn't trade a lot of that. So you're completely right. And if Sharon Moore can continue to inspire confidence in the fan base this coming season, I think people are going to appreciate that even more and realize that, okay, you have a good year this year and then bright future after that. So, and a lot of that will have to do with Bryce Underwood. But let's move real quick, just the House versus NCAA settlement hearing that happened on Monday. Looks like it's going to receive final approval from Judge Claudia Wilkin of Oakland. The only interesting thing that has to do with Michigan, I guess it all does, but the fact that it's going to get through, but there are a couple sticking points, and one of them has to do with Michigan football, basketball, every sport, but especially football, is that she says, why don't you guys grandfather in the new roster limits? And why cut all these guys right away? And to Michigan's credit, they didn't cut people. I think they were probably honest with a lot of the walk-ons. You saw some of them go in the portal in December, but there are still, by my count, roughly 20 walk-ons still on this team. They're at 124 roster spots right now. It's 123 once Alessandro Lorenzetti goes in the portal. But it seems like you're going to be able to be over that 105 until some of these kids that are already on teams leave college. And So that's kind of important. I think same thing on basketball, right? A lot of people have been asking us what happens to the walk-ons if they get to 15 scholarships. And the answer a few days ago was, well, they'll probably have to be a manager or they go transfer and play at a lower level. But it seems like some of these guys will be able to stick around.
That would be nice. I think that just, so much of the college athlete experience has changed over the last few years. And walk-ons, like those guys have paths and stories and moments where their number is called on too. And we're moving to now. I mean, these guys are all, if you're at a Power 4 university now, they're not calling you an employee, because once they do that, you can unionize and have better rights for yourself. But these guys, just, we're missing something with college. We're missing the message. We're missing guys that really just want to work hard and be part of a team, and they don't need anything else. As you can see with some of the moves, especially basketball, it's going to be incredibly hard to recruit and keep 15 guys every single year, especially when you have freshmen that are always maybe going to get recruited over, like a Justin Pippen did or a Fat Brooks did. So if we can reward the guys that want to be there, that'd be pretty great. Because I think that we're talking football scout teams. The average person, I don't think, realizes how important they are. Those guys have to bring it. Those guys arguably work harder during the week, because if they don't give the starters a good look during scout team stuff, they're not prepared to play on Saturday. So just
the backbone of the team.
Well, that's how Scott Frost felt about walk-ons. I don't think we're going all the way back to that, but yeah, I think it's a good thing. Just so many guys just have a dream of wearing a school's colors, or putting on a helmet, or if you're a Michigan guy, running out and touching that banner. And they can't. Not everyone's going to make $1 million in the transfer portal, and not every guy on your roster is going to be some highly paid, mercenary transfer from another school. So if we have spots for guys, let's get guys in there that want to be here, because a lot of guys don't want to be places without a paycheck anymore. And I sound like old man yells at cloud. I think these changes that we're going through will largely be positive when we are able to kind of rein everything in. But
I don't know when that's going to be.
I mean, we could be doing this show 10 years from now, and we're still, like I said, it's craziness. But
yeah,
I think we should reward guys that want to be there if those spots are available.
Yeah, and there are guys that are already there. I think it's only common sense to let them stay until their eligibility runs out, and then you implement the rule. So, I mean, it seems like common sense. It's funny that the judge is like, reads all this and is like, why didn't you guys just grandfather this? Like, why are you trying to push this through and cut all these kids? And they're like, oh, shoot, I guess we could just do that. So we'll see the result of all of this. There really weren't too many other sticking points, a couple minor things. Then all the lawsuits come. This is a settlement. I think Andy Staples tweeted it the other day. Like, the people objecting, why don't they just realize that this is a settlement? This is not the finality of this. There are going to be so many more lawsuits that come. So stay tuned for all the lawsuits and what college sports has become. But that's going to be our show for this week. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. Make sure to like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Head to thewolverine.com. Use the promo code UM1 for 2 months of premium access for $1. Get your official Michigan football game ball at biggameusa.com/Wolverines. And we will see everyone next time.